noticed that the video started and not the audio.
Yeah, no, you are totally good.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good.
Good.
It's been busy. How about for you?
I mean, Mondays are the worst. After a long weekend, it was my son's 10th birthday. So this weekend was, yeah. So we were coming off of like late nights and lots of fun. So this morning was rough.
Yeah, that's right. So you do, I think if I remember correctly, we have some kids around the same age. I have two and you've got three?
Three.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
My youngest, she just turned 3 this month, and then 10 and 7.
10 and 7. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And yours are about 10 and 7, right?
Yeah. So I have a 10-year-old daughter and 6-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. They're a lot of work.
I like your shirt because that's exactly what you got to say, this morning I definitely had the Monday blues this morning, and I don't typically I'm not typically that person that's like, oh, Monday,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
today I was.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the weather change too. Like normally I love the season changes, but it's just kind of like drab and gray out today. And I'm like, I'm not prepared for the cold weather. I kept asking for it forever. And then all of a sudden it's like getting cold. And I'm like, wait, we still need like hats, gloves, like go down the list of all the things. I sent Lucy to her preschool without a coat today. Okay. And I'm like, oh, when I pick her up and I'm seeing all the other kids in their coats, and I'm like, yeah, she probably needed that today.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Today it's right now, it's so cold in the morning, but by the time the afternoon comes, it's not that cold anymore. So I don't know. I would say be easy on yourself.
Yeah.
It's like
yes, good point. Yes, lots of grace.
But no, I'm the same way though, because there's sometimes that my son, he just doesn't want to wear a sweater or something. And I'm like,
oh, I know.
But you got to understand, that makes me look like a bad mom.
I know, right? I have this one friend who she's so great at all this natural consequence parenting, where she's like, if you tell them they need the coat and they don't take it, then you just let them go without the coat. And then next time they'll realize that they're cold and they'll take their own coat. And I'm like, that works for you? Like, that doesn't work for me. Like, they would still just then cry nonstop about how cold they were, and the next time it would still be a battle to get them to take their dang coat. So
yes,
I'm kind of one of those just bounce back and forth of just flip and do it for me, please. Take the dang coat, put it in your backpack if you don't want it, but just have it just in case, so that I don't look like the mom who sent her son to school in basketball shorts.
So have you had a lot of, I've seen a few of your events and stuff. Have you had a lot coming, and do you have a lot coming up for the holiday season or?
Yeah, so the fall is huge for events. I think October and November, I have something, at least 3 each week. But then once November hits, the truck kind of has to park. It does not like the cold weather. Sometimes it won't even start when it's cold outside. So then I just park it and we'll see. Usually it's pretty slow for retail during December and January anyways. So hopefully that won't be too much of an issue.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy busy season right now.
Yeah.
And then of course, all the
holiday traffic.
Yes.
To cover those.
Carry through those months. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. I know. I kind of underestimated how busy fall merchandise would be. So I'm like, okay, note to self, next year, double down on all the shackets. Everybody's going crazy.
Yeah.
For all of these. So lessons learned.
all things that you wouldn't know unless you decided to start your own business. So, I was talking to my therapist today. What did he say? He said, something I'm going to get it wrong, but basically something about the journey begins with the first step, you know? And
Mhm.
so it's like you can't even start unless you take a step doing something, you know? So
Yep. Yep. That's so
wouldn't
true.
have ever learned that if you never, you know, took the step to even start your own business. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
I know. It's all just kind of one of those you just have to dive in. I've kind of always been that way though, where I'm more of the dive in head first, figure out later all the time. Like I'm much more impulsive than I am of a planner and researcher. I mean, I do some of that too, but usually only after I've overcommitted myself into something. And then I'm like, okay, now I need to take a step back and pull all that research out and, back myself up with a little bit. But
Yeah, no, I can relate to that very much. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good segue into, tell me, why don't you introduce yourself, and then also just tell, like, maybe just say how we met. I don't know.
okay,
In your point of view.
okay. And is it Rachel or Raquel?
Raquel.
Raquel. Okay,
And
I
how do
just
you
want to make
pronounce your
sure.
last name?
Sheer. I know it's
Scherer. Okay.
sheer,
So
like
Scherer.
scissors. I
Okay.
know. Everybody's always like, Shearer. I'm like, no, it's just one sheer. It's
Just
horrible, horrible spelling, but
okay.
I can thank my ex-husband for that one.
Okay. I won't probably say your last name that often, but I just wanted to have it right in case. So
Yes, yep, yep. Okay, so my name's Ashely Scherer, and I'm the owner and curator of the Fashion Truck KC. This is my second business that I have started. My first one is called the Makery KC, which you might have heard before. It's more of a DIY workshop.
Okay.
And so now I'm doing the fashion truck, and that's where I met Raquel. She came on as a shopper and she just hit it off right away. We were joking and talking mom talk and all the things. And that's kind of what led me to here.
Okay. So you tell me, I don't know much about your other business too. So I'm curious about that. So we'll go back to the fashion truck KC, but
Okay.
tell me a little bit about the Makery KC. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. So the Makery KC, that was my first little entrepreneurial leap into the business world. And it really started with me being a stay-at-home mom at the time and just wanting and longing for something more. And I'd always kind of like dabbled into DIY projects and crafting and all kinds of hobbies that I took on like that. And I noticed when I would have like girls' nights with my friends, we'd kind of get together and do one of these projects. And it was just like this heartfelt need of like gathering women and having something to do other than at our age, going out to the bars or going out, and doing what you would typically do with your girlfriends pre-mom days and being at the age where 9 p.m. sounds late. So it was just kind of this like, right? It was like this life-giving time that I needed with my girlfriends. And it kind of just then moved into, hey, what if we did this as a group event and put it somewhere very inspiring and artistic? And that's where we kind of met into the West Bottoms, the historic downtown area in Kansas City, where there's so much movers and makers and, the art district down there. So we're like, let's give women a chance to get out somewhere fun and exciting that didn't have to revolve around going to a bar, and give them time to just create with each other and hang out with each other. And it really just kind of grew my passion, not just for the business side of things, but really just meeting with women in community. That's really kind of what my main drive and focus really revolves around.
Yeah.
So I did that for quite a while. And then COVID hit and event businesses really kind of took a big pause. And so that's when I had all the time to then start finding another way to kind of meet my needs as a creative entrepreneurial businesswoman, and something that was also going to pay my bills during the COVID hit. So that's when I got the truck and decided to build that out.
Yeah. Okay. So, and is the makery like still around, or is it kind of slowly ticking back up now that things are opening back up again? Or
I sold the majority shares of it. So it is still operating. I'm kind of behind the scenes on it now, but it's pretty much just private parties only now, where it used to be kind of a public event. So she's kind of just now taking it to more corporate events and private events.
Yeah, I think that's just the tone now, though, the environment. So there's a paint and sip place here in town where I live in North, and they, it's semi-private because they want at least 5 participants. So if you are interested in going, you probably want to invite 4 of your friends, type of thing.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I think my son just did a somersault. Okay. But yeah, so that is really interesting. And it's cool that you still have, your hands in it, because I think, again, it just shows your diversity and being a businesswoman, and then just coming off and then creating something new. And it seems like this is kind of more geared towards a specific passion of yours. Is that true? Or for the fashion truck, Casey?
Yes, definitely. I would say that it feeds into my passion with shopping and my love for fashion. Retail and merchandising is growing passion. I'm getting more interested into that the more into the business I get. I think that, I don't know if it's just me or the way that I tend to evolve with things, but I'm kind of always looking for the next passion. So I've had 1,000 passions in my life, and this just happens to be the newest one, I would say. But yes, I've always had a love for fashion, and I've always appreciated it as a shopper. So being on the retail side of it now is definitely growing on me. It's more than I realized it was going to be going into it. Mm-hmm. But I love just the whole business side of things. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely a newer passion.
Yeah. And does it, because you talked about with the first business, wanting to have that community of women, and that it's so crazy because, like you said, that's how we met.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that, as far as having different passions along different phases of your life. I think somebody told me once, like, don't try to be good at everything, just try to be good at like one thing. And like, I understand that, mm-hmm. And I definitely believe in putting your efforts into, don't spread yourself too thin. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm like you, I really enjoy so many different parts of life creatively. Mm-hmm. and also creating communities. And so for me, I might find my stride somewhere. I'll try it. I'll try it. And if I'll easily find out if it doesn't work for me, and I have no issue with letting it go if it doesn't, but I appreciate whatever I learned or whatever side of myself that brought out, so I think a lot of people can relate to what you said.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think it was today, I even saw something where I was like, oh, that's so crazy that I saw this, because I'm talking to Raquel tonight and I want to remember that. But I read something that said, like, the myth that careers need to be lifelong really does a huge disservice to so many people, because to think that we have to decide so early on in our life, when we're kids, people ask us all the time, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And some people really identify with that and double down on it, and they decide, I'm going to be a doctor, and they carry that through, and they live a very disciplined life to get themselves there. And that's great. And then I think for a lot of us creative types, we're kind of left thinking like, oh, well, I want to do this and this and that, and then this, and then that introduced me to that. And now I want to try this. Like, there's kind of this ever evolving learning ourselves and wanting to explore other things. And so I think that this idea that a career is only successful if you've been in it for a long time, and you've, gone up the ladder and you're becoming an expert in your field. I think that that's great for some, but does such a disservice to other people who, kind of like you said, I'll take anything and I'll learn what I can from it. But I also know when to leave that and try something different. And I think sometimes knowing when to leave is so important, and, just so much more life-giving than staying in something that's not serving you anymore.
Oh yeah. And not to say that that type of way of being doesn't have its pain or times where you're perhaps causing, your own suffering. Because I know when I was younger and early in my career life, as a young lady, I feel the word to say. Okay. But when I was getting into the workforce, because that was always something I saw in myself, was being a woman in business, whether it was owning my own business or in the corporate world, or, or just being somebody who had some sort of goal, or just like you said, striving for the next thing, not in a discontentful way or anything. I don't know if that's a word, but not in that way.
Now it is.
Yeah. But just always wondering and being curious about what could be next,
Yes.
So I definitely had times where I left things too early, abruptly, or, so I think, did you have, okay. So you touched on, when when we're younger, and I like that, because I just like that question too. But what I'm coming to find that I do like is less about what you wanted to be and more about like what you imagined your life would be like when you were a child. So not necessarily like what you wanted to be, but when you were a young girl and you thought of yourself as a woman, what did you imagine yourself as?
That's such a good question. Yes, I get what you're saying. Not like what I wanted to be, but just what I saw my life laid out like. I think that my younger self, I was so shaped around what I had around me, and the modeling and family structure and everything that I had was really about women being more in the home and not really in the work environment. And if they were in the work environment, it was more so as a hobby or a philanthropist or anything that was part-time to allow you to be a full-time mom. So when I was younger, I really was limited on what I saw my future to be. I really kind of only thought of myself in terms of getting married someday and having kids and being a mom, which is wonderful. And I love being a mom. And that's definitely been a huge drive for me in working a career and a job around being able to be a mom. But I just never really felt like I had the opportunity to be much more. I didn't really see women being anything other than stay-at-home moms, really. And so it wasn't until I was older that I saw how much opportunity there really is for women, and that there are so many different kinds of jobs and careers and paths that you can take. So I wish I had been introduced to all of that so much sooner. And I might have had a different, drive for trying to get to where I am now. I wouldn't have been so late in life to everything, I think. But so, yeah, I don't know. So when I was younger, I think I just kind of wanted to be a mom.
Yeah, no. And, I think that a lot of times too, like you said, not having room for more than that in our minds, and so the funny thing is when I was younger, I didn't so much see myself as a mom, but I really did see myself kind of limited as like a partner to somebody, like being attached to somebody, a partner, a husband, whatever, and that, like you said, I was raised to be pretty independent, but I didn't have a lot of my relatives were stay-at-home moms. They may have done jobs, but a lot of it was for survival or again, just a way to make money and be able to be with their kids. So it's definitely, more in a tight box,
Yes.
And so I think it's really, what I think is really cool though is to see, like, when you look back, you probably see a lot of growth then in yourself, and what like kind of switched for you, and when did you decide that you wanted to, I guess with the Makers Casey, what I actually had, like personally, what was the personal transition there to like your mindset, to kind of get you to this place where you could finally start taking steps into what you desired?
Yes. I think that it probably looked like feeling unfulfilled and wanting something for myself that wasn't just an identity in being a mom. I had so much wrapped up in that, and starting to think about, well, what next? So here I am being a mom, and I'm in this season of my life. And when I'm in something, I'm full throttle, so in being a mom, I was the Pinterest mom making, all the fun artwork like I see behind you and doing all the projects and the snaps and the teaching them and doing all the things. And I was full force into that. And then as they're getting older and I'm seeing all my friendships around me that have this other side that's also fulfilling to them and just never really not really having women prior to that in my life that had this. It wasn't a dual thing. You had to choose one or the other. And so seeing, well, look at all these awesome friendships of mine that are being a mom and also being so fulfilled in what they're doing and chasing dreams here, and they're not necessarily sacrificing anything. And so I think that kind of led me into wanting something more for myself. And then once that desire was there and I had the idea and I had the concept of what I wanted to do, then it was just a nosedive in. Then it was just, okay, so here's what I want. So what are the steps I need to get there? And then that looked like, okay, so start from the very beginning. I need to start a LLC and get the legal paperwork done. I need to walk through those motions, legitimize myself. And so I did that. And then it was, okay, what's the next step? So it's always just kind of looking like, here's what I want. Now let's problem solve to get there. What's the next logical step? And so much of that for me came from just learning it as I went, just saying, okay, I need this. So what are my resources to get there? And figuring it out as I went.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something you said really hit for me, and, seeing your friends, and seeing where they are at. And so I kind of took two parts from that, because you mentioned they're also mothers, some of them. And so, the first is that so many times I see this in myself and I hear it in others. And now I'm getting to a point where I'm speaking kinder to myself. And, how would you say that to your best friend? Like, if I'm saying something negative to myself, like, would you say that to your best friend?
Right.
Then rethink what you're telling yourself, because so many times when we get around people who are successful and we admire them and we look up to them, it's easy to feel small rather than empowered. And I think instead we should lean towards the empowered side, because, if you all of a sudden find yourself surrounded by successful people and people who are, like you said, focused and going after their dreams, then that also says something about you as a person, because people in that lane, people who have that focus, aren't going to probably spend a whole lot of time with people who aren't like that. So, so that says something, about you. So, and for anybody who feels that way, hopefully, can get some encouragement, because it's easy to have like imposter syndrome,
Absolutely.
and feel like I don't belong here, but, you get to decide, if it's something you want to try or go after. I write like a quote or something on our little calendar board every week. And I think this time I put, we can do hard things and mistakes help me learn, so you don't make a mistake unless you tried to do something. So, and then also, being a mom, I think what our kids need most from us is for us to be ourselves. And I know for me, my biggest struggle as a mother was understanding my identity as a whole person, because I put myself in a box when I first became a mother. I had a really strong idea about who a mother was, what a mother did, how a mother behaved. Just, similar to what you said. And I quickly started to feel so miserable and realized that I did not fit in any of those boxes.
Yeah.
And it felt isolating.
Yes.
And then slowly, but, little by little, like you said, taking that step, for me, my first step was getting back into some physical health, because that was something I was always, passionate about, is working out and being active. That's something that's I've always enjoyed doing. So finding the things that you enjoy again, and you can turn those things into a business, and, so, okay. I think my next question that's a good segue into what outside of business. So we've talked about, it's a lot of hard work. Being a mom, like being a mom and owning your own business, or if you work, if you're doing something, I have a full-time job and I try to do my little things outside of that, because I'm thankful to have a job that allows me to have other interests outside of it. Interest. But so what are your favorite things to do for yourself to just kind of stay balanced, to reset, kind of get back to center,
Yes. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. Okay. So like you, I had really kind of lost a lot of myself in motherhood and marriage. And I think a lot of that is our own pressures we put on ourselves. So I think so much of the things that I had loved, my hobbies and the time I made time for, I hadn't been doing. And when I met a group of women, and we started a little Bible study where we met once a week, and we kind of started exploring self-growth and looking into that. And so what started as a Bible study, I feel like kind of turned into a book club, which then kind of turned into self-growth, and encouragement from each other. But reading was always a huge passion and love of mine that I just didn't make time for. And I had forgotten how much I enjoyed that and how much I loved it, which then also transpired into a lot of podcasts. And I just felt like every time I got in my car, I would either put an audiobook on or a podcast on. And I just felt like it was feeding me so much more than listening to music or, anything else. And I kind of from there just started realizing I'm sabotaging my own health because I'm, like you said, limiting myself to what I need to do. I think we kind of go into like survivor mode of, trying to put all the hats on, the mom hat, the wife hat, the boss hat, all the things. And it's like, I don't have time to do this or that. But then when you don't, you lose that side of you that's so enjoyable. I mean, the part that makes Raquel who Raquel is and Ashely who Ashely is, it's those little, hobbies and things that we love to do. And I for me, one of the biggest ones is really just being a girl's girl. Like that, it sounds maybe like an odd hobby, but just like being around women and being able to encourage and be their hype girl and get that back from them, it's just so fueling to me. And I feel like the older we get, the less of that we get as adults. Our friendship groups kind of get smaller just because of where we move at in life or what time we have available for. So friendships and women really became a hobby focus of mine. And then anything creative. I've always been big into just creating, no matter if it's pen and paper and just drawing, or I really became a huge fan of woodworking. And that's what also led into a lot of the makery and a lot of projects with that, is to just spend time out in my shop, like building and creating and seeing what I could do, and not having any formal experience. But if I wanted to build shelves, I was going to YouTube it and figure it out. And, if Bob can do it, I can do it. Like I just, need to see it done and practice and get better. And in a short matter of time, I was able to build a table, and then I was able to, build some shelves. And then it was this is so empowering for me. Let me show these women, these other girls, how to use an air gun and build, you know, a table. Let me show them how to do that, which then led into me building a truck. But so really just anything creative, anything artistic, and reading, and really just self-growth in general. I don't know if you can call that a hobby, but I would definitely say reading in terms of like Brene Brown and, you know, all the self-growth mindset.
Doyle, I don't know.
Glennon Doyle, which I actually met her at a book signing, which was amazing. Yeah, I loved it, every second of it. But yeah, just that whole genre of self-growth where we don't have to be so hard on ourselves or judge ourselves for wanting to be better, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And definitely I love that because I think it is a hobby because you know, like just today I was looking up an article just to kind of, like I said, I had the Monday blues and I haven't had that in a long time. And thankfully I go to counseling weekly. And so that helps me keep a bird's eye view on things. And so, I was able to kind of pull myself out and like call myself on my own bullshit a little bit and move towards gratitude and thankfulness, not dismissing my feelings on things, you know, certainly not that, but, you know, so acknowledging and allowing, but also remembering to stay grounded and present and be thankful. And it's so hard. So it does become a hobby because you need, at least I do, I need the constant reminder. Like, you know, I need the constant reminder. So it's become a hobby for me as well. And like you, now all I want to do is I feel like I'm collecting people right now in a weird way. Like, I'm like, are you also trying to grow? Because if you are, let's hang out. Like,
yes, exactly. It's like you said it a minute ago. You said, so I was talking to my counselor today, or you said something along those lines, and I was like, that right there, that's my favorite. I know that's my people. When I hear that statement of like, I was talking to my therapist today. I was talking to my counselor, and I'm like, yeah, girl, we're gonna talk because I know you're on the same journey.
Yeah. And then it's also hard, and that's what I really appreciated about you. Well, first of all, we didn't even touch on the fact that you built the truck for Fashion Truck KC, which is again why you really inspired the title for this series, meeting you.
That's so
because
sweet.
I've been having such a hard time thinking about what I want to do to start with, but I feel like I needed a focus, like something to focus on just to start with. And then just talking to you and hearing your story, yeah, I was just like, well, that's it right there. Like badass. Like, you know. So,
yes, I love that.
So you talk about that real quick. We'll touch on that.
Yeah. So when I had the idea of going into retail, I knew that I wanted something that would set me apart. And because to know me is also to know that I can't do anything just the normal way. I can't just like go get a storefront and, you know, just be boring Ashely. Like everything has to be different or above and beyond. So I had this idea, and I've seen other trucks, other retail style trucks, or I've always had an affinity for like tiny homes and all of that. And that builder hobbyist inside of me was just dying for a project like that. So I decided what I was going to do. And then I hunted for like the perfect old truck. And I went on like this mission to find exactly what I needed. And other people, like I brought other people into like my thought process. Nobody got it at first. Like I would try to explain it to people and nobody could really see my vision. And I was having a hard time explaining it. And so I kind of just right there decided like, you know what, this isn't about I'm not going to take anybody's advice right now. Like this, I know what I want. I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just start. So I went and found a 1998 step van Frito-Lay delivery truck. And this thing was like, I'm not even kidding, the most hideous thing you've ever seen. It sounded like it was dead and dying. It hardly ever started. And it was just metal rusting inside. It had been sitting somewhere in a field for like however many years. My math is not good, but 1998 to now. So I bought it cheap and drove it home, white knuckled. Got it home and kind of sat with it for a minute while I researched people building like camper vans where they would like take an old van and turn it into like a new trailer or camping vehicle, because I knew it needed to be insulated. You know, I kind of knew the logistics of what I was going to need. And so I got the truck, gutted it. I insulated it, framed the walls, literally like step by step, drew plans and figured out where I would need certain things to go. I had a vision for how I wanted it to be open and airy so that you didn't feel like you were in a truck. I kept telling people, I want when somebody steps on it that they don't feel like they're in a truck anymore. I want them to feel like they are in a modern boutique storefront and just kind of be transcended to a different place. And so I'm sure I drove people crazy because I was very particular about how I wanted things to go. A lot of people told me that I couldn't have the back of my truck open because then it would let hot air out and cool air in, you know, it wouldn't be efficient. And I was like, yeah, but sometimes aesthetic is more important than how something works. So efficient is not always going to beat out aesthetics. And for me, for what I wanted and for the look I was going for, functionality didn't matter. I was like, I'll figure that out later. Maybe I'll put a floor unit in there and put some heating and air in it some other way. And then I just kind of literally learned from watching YouTube videos on what I would need to screw into the metal sheets and what kind of tools I would need and what kind of generator I would need. All of a sudden I know so much about powered units and things I never had any idea I would know anything about. And built it out, got it running, and just kind of started going from there.
Yeah. No, I think that's so neat. No, do you have like before and after pictures? Did you take?
Yes, I did. And there were times when building it where, I mean, I remember one time I lost my shit, if I can say that, where I was trying to build the ceiling in it. And so many people told me, well, why don't you just, you know, do like decal, like paint it or do, I'm like, no, I want like a legit ceiling in there with lights. And I'm going to figure out how to do it. So here I am out in my truck trying to lift this heavy panel wood and put it up into the ceiling so that then I can screw into it. And it kept falling back down on me. And I ended up with like a black eye where the wood fell down and hit me. And I felt so defeated. And I was like, like, I don't want to have to ask for help on this because I want it to be what I built and what I did. And then I kind of realized, okay, why am I feeling that way about it? My ego is getting in the way of that. I wanted it to be all me and not ask for help. I wanted to prove that I could do this to myself more than anything else. It wasn't really what I thought other people were going to think. So at that point, I did have to break down and get somebody to come help me hold up this plywood so we could get the ceiling in place. But I'm so glad I did it that way and that I didn't just, you know, throw in the towel and say that was too hard. It can't be done. You know, it can't be done that way is what I heard a lot. And I just kind of held true to it like it can. I just have to figure out how to do it. I can't do it this way.
Mhm.
And so this is now where I'll bring somebody in and help me get it that way. But
yeah, but you're still determined and still focused. And I think I love I mean, I appreciate the like self reflection, because so many times, like you said, we can get in our own way if we're not, where we get stuck on, again, wanting to prove something to ourselves or to somebody else. And when I think sometimes it is easy to forget, that you have a community of people that you can reach out to, because for me, I'm always like, I don't want to be a burden, like,
yes, 100%.
but I don't really feel that way. That is starting to slowly, go
melt away.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, what probably you can agree or understand what I mean, but a lot of what brought me to where I am involved a lot of different people. And I think now when I meet new people or, anything like, or I look at my relationships now and with my kids and my family, and it's easier to kind of have a little more self-reflection and say, well, how do I play a role in all of these folks' lives and, things like that. So, and how do I, aid in my own obstacles? Do I put
100%.
obstacles in myself unnecessarily? So,
Yeah. It's shocking to me how hard it is for us to ask for help. And it's just because we're the first to like offer that to anybody. If you knew your friends needed help, I guarantee you'd probably be first in mind to say, what can I do? How can I be? And I think it's just hard to even, for one, admit to ourselves that we need help. And I think that's one of the best gifts we can give ourselves, is to understand nobody does it all on their own. Nobody. We see so much, especially with social media and everything, and we think, God, like, how are they doing all that they're doing? Like, how does anybody have all that time in the day to do that and look perfect doing it? And it's just like, they don't. They have a team behind them. And it's okay to ask for help when you need help. That was so hard for me to figure out, but thank God. I've finally gotten somewhere it can be that way.
Yes, no, I agree. And I am right there with you when it comes to meeting people who are even interested in, counseling, whether it's group counseling. I don't care what kind of counseling it is. Like, if you're interested in that, because I come from it from such a student perspective of, I just want to learn how, for me in my like sanity, how to get better tools, because I am now at a point where I'm willing to acknowledge that my go-to coping, or my go-to, like, it's a pattern that I have, done my whole life. And some of those patterns have served me really well and got me to where I am now, but it's time to shift some new to create some new patterns, and
sure.
So I just think that, and that's going to happen for the rest of my life. I'm starting to realize now that's the sobering part, not sobering, but it's the human part of counseling. So when I first went, I was like, I'm going to fix myself. And then my counselor's like, you're like, we're not fixing anything. There's nothing to fix. Here. Like, so, but, so, okay. Well, I know we have to wrap up soon. So this has been so much fun though. And okay, where can people find your like Instagram, if you have Facebook? We'll start there. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So all the things. I'm on Instagram and my handle is Fashion Truck KC, and Facebook is the same, Fashion Truck KC. I also have a website, which is the Fashion Truck KC. And through there, you can shop anything. And with social media, Instagram, Facebook, that's usually where you can find where I'm going to be at for pop-ups and different markets and things like that. You can book the truck yourself and have a girls' night, which has become my fast favorite thing to do. Neighborhood parties are just so much fun. I mean, all these women, they're just carving out time again for themselves, and I'm loving every minute of it. And then recently I just I signed up to be a vendor at the Painted Tree Marketplace, which is in Overland Park. So I'll be having a booth there year round. So I'll have inventory there, even that's not associated with the truck, but you can find everything that's on the truck in there as well.
Okay. And from being in your truck, I have to say that one of the things that I love the most is that you had pieces that were definitely like on trend, but not in a way that you wouldn't be able to wear them, you know, several years from now. So things that like really good staples for your closet, but timeless ones. And you had unique pieces, like, so it was a jean jacket, but the details were different, you know?
I so love that you're saying that. That's definitely my goal when I'm curating my collection, is that I love classic, you know, pieces that are going to be your closet staples. And then I just want to like throw in that piece of trend that you feel like, oh, I don't know if I can wear this, or I'm not so sure about this yet. And then I just want to show people you can wear that. And let me show you how to pair this with everything that's here, that, you know, you can wear this stuff all the time. And then maybe just elevate it by throwing in this new jacket that's on trend right now. And it will all go together, and you can piece, you know, any of this to go with anything that's in the truck, so that everything kind of has a very cohesive fit.
Yeah. And you even have some accessories, and what I bought was a bath bomb.
Yes.
So I was so thankful for, by the way, I actually, okay, I'm going to post a picture and tag you, because I used it the day after I ran the Garmin marathon.
Oh, wow.
And it was the same day I got home, and I put that sucker in a in the bathtub.
Yes.
So I was so thankful. So back to self-care, rest. Everyone's got to rest.
100%.
You know? But so I loved it. And the way you described your truck was perfect. And it wasn't hot at all. And it was a
good
day.
It was a hot day.
It was pretty warm, like one of those weird fall warm days. But I'm so excited for you and your journey, and we're just getting to know each other, but I'm excited to get to know you more. I would totally do this again with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And any other time if you think of a community, think of me, I guess.
Yes, I love it. And that's what I said. My most favorite part about my job is getting to meet women like you. Like, that's literally what feeds me, what makes me motivated to keep doing what I'm doing. Is just the opportunity to chat with people like yourself. And, you know, I don't know what it is about shopping that kind of helps us get outside of our zone, but it just like opens a whole window for women to be feminine and be who we are, and, you know, just kind of encourage each other, which I love.
Yes. Yeah. And
awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Everything, this was so much fun. Definitely. And then I'm like, in the back of my mind, I've been wanting to ask you this whole time, but I was like, well, don't get off track, because I can do that. I talk like monkey brain. Do you know the Enneagram, with all of like the self growth and everything that you've been?
So I've taken it I need to take it again, because I think it's changed a little bit, you know? So I'm going to take it again, because I've taken it. Is that the type or the letters?
So it's a number. It's like the number system.
I think a 9.
A 9, the peacemaker. I have to like, again, admit I'm like ridiculously obsessed with it. Another one of my hobbies. But it's so funny how once you kind of get into that and pair it with the self-growth stuff, how just like down the rabbit hole you can go with all of it. But yeah, it's so interesting. If you can, yeah, if you look into it, there's a book by Ian Cron called I don't know if it's like Know Your Number or The Road Back to You is what it's called. The Road Back to You. And it's so good. And it can kind of help. There's a questionnaire, I think, in there too, that can kind of help you pinpoint your number. But yeah, so 9's kind of like the peacemaker, the jack of all trades, and a little bit kind of melts with, you know, the easygoing. So I could definitely see that. But
yes, yeah,
so
that's the letter one is the one I don't remember. But yeah, I remember I did get the 9 because I remember when I first heard, I was like slightly annoyed that I got the peacemaker because I'm not anymore, but I used to be such a people pleaser, and I was just, you know, like it's exhausting sometimes, you know.
Yes. Oh, I totally get it.
Going like it's not that pleasant sometimes. So,
yeah. And I think that's the thing about it too that everybody talks with the Enneagram is that it kind of like they call it the shadow side, so it kind of shows you like the side of yourself that you don't like, and then that's why, you know, that's kind of helps give you some self-growth and all of that. But I remember too, like when I took mine's called the Epicure. So 7 is like the enthusiast. I'm a 7. And I remember like when I learned it too, I resented it so much, like no, I'm not just the life of the party, what it once appeared me. I was like, there's so much more depth than that. Like I was so mad at it. Like, no, I'm not flaky. I'm not this. Like, I know I can have these traits, but anyways, I was just curious if maybe you had.
No, I love that. I'm going to read that book. And also, yeah, when you were talking about books, that's something that when I was younger, I actually was not super into. I was always into writing, always very creative, just had a wild imagination, and always loved acting and like role playing and just, you know, all that kind of stuff, drama, you know. And but reading, I don't know, I read like Goosebumps, like, you know, I was reading crime before I even knew I was reading crime.
Those were good.
But nothing really too in depth, you know.
Sure.
But my counselor, he suggests books like from the very beginning, and at first I was super annoyed, like, you're gonna make me read, but I use Audible, and it has been a godsend. Like I love it. Has, as somebody, and I think I've never been diagnosed like as ADD or ADHD, but it's always been very difficult for me to do a book in hand
start to finish. Yes, I'm 100%. I am ADD, self-diagnosed and clinically diagnosed.
And audiobooks. Diagnosed myself as ADD because I see it pretty clearly.
When you know, you know. When you know, you know.
But so now audiobooks have been such a godsend. And so like since 2018, I've been doing like nonfiction, and then more recently, some of the more like life journey, self-help. I hate that term, but self-help, you know, avenue. So I've read like The Mastery of Love by Don. I'm going to get his name wrong, so I'm just going to stop there, but it's called The Mastery of Love. My one of my libraries called The Body Keeps the Score. The
Body Keeps the Score is so good. Oh my gosh, that one was literally like a mind bomb for me. So good. And that's a big book. Oh yeah.
Yes. And it's an audio. These are all audible. So that's been, like I said, that's been like such a big blessing for me, because now I can enjoy books and really get what others get out of them, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So it takes me on a journey when I hear it through audio. I can go with it. So, okay. Well, we might have to do a whole other podcast about
I know, books. I was going to say, now I'm like, that's my interest. I got to talk about we got to like book share.
And just even like about how like moments where you have like those aha moments in growth. Like you said, where you like, now I look at the peacemaker, and like you said, when you brought up the shadow side, I'm like, oh, okay. you know, because what it's about is it is about accepting all parts of yourself.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And it's so easy sometimes to like know what we, like you were saying, the patterns that you've had and then learning new patterns for them. And it's like asking the question into why, like, why is this my pattern? Like to go even just like, so now we know, like, it's like this gives me the attention and now I know what to do with it. But why was that my go-to? You know, like that, just to keep going deeper and deeper into these are my patterns. And why are these my patterns? Because the more you know, then the easier that is to change whatever it is that we're constantly doing on default, to live by intention and not default.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And to, yeah, like you said, again, know that you don't know until you know. You know, so you won't know to do better until you realized it, and to approach that without, because for me it was always judgment. How I always approach myself with judgment versus curiosity. You know? So now it's not that I don't struggle with judgment, judging myself, judging others. You know, I definitely struggle with that still, but now I definitely lean more towards the curious side of with myself. And then that actually helps me and causes me to be curious of others versus coming from a place of judgment. Doesn't mean I have to engage with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but like just to come from a place of curiosity.
Yes.
Versus, you know, just that place of judgment where you're not having any compassion or grace for yourself, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So, Brene Brown, one of her books that I think it is Braving the Wilderness, she talks about giving everyone the most generous assumption. So it's like, instead of judging right away, I'm the same way too, where I'm like, why did they do that? You know, like just jump to that, like, they're not doing it the right way. And it's like, give them the most generous assumption. They're just doing the best that they can with the tools that they have and the trauma and the story that they're with, you know, like meeting everybody just where they're at and just saying, we're all just trying to do the best we freaking can. You know, we're just all trying to figure life out.
And then I think one of the biggest turning points for me, because I still, so I come from a Christian background, and so I still strongly have like a very strong faith. But one thing that I had to kind of deconstruct for myself, and I can't speak for anybody else's journey, but for me, where I felt like was trusting myself. And I felt like it was wrong to trust myself. So now a lot of that was, again, going back to those patterns, because a lot of the things I was doing for myself, you know, was coming from a place of survival, like you said, and not coming from a place of intention and being, you know, present. And a lot of that too is experience. You know, I love my daughter, and my kids are so much smarter than me. So I think they're going to have hopefully a better journey than me, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have to go to therapy for something I think so far. So, but, you know, but I can already see in them like more of a growth mindset that I had at their age. And so I just hope that it trickles down to them. You know, I think at the end of the day, when we talk about, oh, you have to fit in this box to be a mom, like, no, again, it goes back to, no, you really need to be yourself, because then it teaches kids to be themselves. It teaches them to be empowered and unafraid to be who they are and to go after the things that they see for themselves. And, you know, for me, you know, my desires are to kind of flourish and to flower over into my home and into my, you know, family, you know, So, and by the way, my pictures back there, I didn't do any of those with my kids.
Oh. Well, they're very good. You have some very artistic children.
Babysitter, and then this one was school.
That's a disclaimer. Oh,
But
that's so funny.
anyways. Well, okay, so I'll let you go. It's almost 10, I guess. But we should definitely plan this again. And even like I would totally be we have kids, like we could hang out with our kids.
Yeah, like let's totally, we need to like do coffee or do something. For sure.
Yeah, and Grace there too, because I know busy. So
right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 100%. I get it.
Do you know if you will be able to, do you do the live after 5, or was that just kind of a one-off?
I've done it a couple times. I plan to do it again in November. So I'll be there next second Thursday, I think. Is that what it is? First Thursday, maybe?
First Thursday, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Well, if all else fails, I'll see you there. I'll definitely
pop in there.
So
awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, Raquel.
Thank you. Good night, Ashely.
See you later.
It was so much fun talking to you.
Ditto.
All right. Bye.
Bye.